You saw it play out on CBS. Iowa beating Nebraska 40-16. Mark Gronowski had 2 rushing touchdowns on the day. Also threw for another. And the Hawkeyes put up 40 for the 3rd time this year. Again, 40-16 is the final as Emmett Johnson goes for 217 on the ground for Nebraska in the loss. I'm Tommy Train with Tom Fornelli and Beanie Wells. Guys, this was a high-scoring game, just like we all predicted. Now, game total was 39.5, and it was already hit at halftime. Beanie, I'm going to give you first word. What stood out to you about this Hawkeye performance today?
I mean, just the way that Iowa's offense was able to move the ball and the points that were football game. I said the score would be something like 18-14, something low scoring, and the offensive output was incredible by Iowa's offense. And then we knew what their defense would be able to do versus the young quarterback. We knew they'd throw a lot at him in terms of different blitz, different coverage disguises, and it was ultimately too much for the young quarterback. Anytime you're a freshman playing in a big-time rivalry game and you don't have all the weapons at your disposal and you haven't had the reps out there on the football field, we knew it would be a tough outing for TJ Lateef. They were able to have some success running the football, but it just wasn't enough versus this Iowa football team. Mark Gronowski was crazy efficient. He was sensational in his decision-making, and then Moulton, his ability to pull the ball down and run it. Iowa proved why they were one of the better teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, this was a complete Iowa effort, which typically anytime the Hawkeyes put 40 points on the board, it's going to be. You saw the offense contributing. While his final stat line is not going to look great as a passer, he only had 166 yards throwing. Every single completion Mark Gronowski made in this game felt like a huge completion down the field, an explosive play, helped setting them up for, to put points on the board in the red zone. Kamari Molden had some big runs. Reese Vanderzee had a terrific one-handed catch along the sideline to set up a touchdown. Special teams, you saw Caden Weechin when he was able to get returns, putting the offense into Nebraska territory, setting them up. And even when Nebraska was trying to stay away from him with punts, it was setting them up for success because they were doing so by kicking ball to midfield and giving Iowa great field position. And defensively, they struggled in the first half. Emmett Johnson did some Emmett Johnson stuff, broke free for a 70-yard run, had 177 yards rushing on him in the first half. But in the second half, Iowa put the clamps on Johnson. They put the clamps on the entire Nebraska offense. They were able to get that safety. They forced the fumble at the goal line late in the game when Nebraska was trying to score. This was just every facet of the game for the Iowa Hawkeyes played incredible, and this is what the end result is, 40-16, a huge win over your rival.
And as good as it feels today, it also kind of maybe a little frustrating to the fan base saying, well, boy, what could have been? And Beanie, I think you hinted at it, one of the better teams in the conference, but if they could just flip half of those games that they lost this year in those low-scoring, close one-score games, it really could have been an even better season for the Hawkeyes this year.
Yeah, we'd be talking about them being potentially a team getting into the college football playoff. You go back and you look at the way they played Oregon all the way down the stretch, that game coming within one possession of potentially winning that game in the fourth quarter. And then they played Indiana the best out of anybody has in the country this season, taking them to the wire. So, I was a great football team. We know with Kirk Ferentz, one thing you're going to get is a disciplined bunch. But if they would have had some more offensive firepower, we'd be talking about Iowa as being a team potentially, like I said, being in the college football playoff, fighting for a chance to win a Big Ten title. They're a quality team, and they're just a quarterback away every year to being right there in contention. And hopefully, obviously Gronowski's going to be out of there. They get somebody else to replace and refill his shoes, and we're talking about them next season as being a team that can make some noise and make a run.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, this was a classic Iowa season in that when they came up against the top teams, the elite teams, they played them very tough. They had a couple close losses, but they had a chance to win those games. And then when it comes to playing all their old Big Ten West foes, you can see by the final scores there against Wisconsin, Minnesota, and today against Nebraska, just blow the doors off the teams we could blow the doors off of and have ourselves an 8-9, and sometimes you get to a 10-win season doing so. So I think that this is just everything that Iowa has always been. I think this has been an excellent season for the Hawkeyes, and to Beanie's point, they're really not that far away. Like, they've got a couple kids coming into the recruiting class next year at quarterback and a wide receiver receiver that I think could be difference makers. And one of the things we talk about, like Gronowski has been a huge bonus for them offensively. While he doesn't have the eye-popping numbers, he's still been the best passing quarterback they've had in the last 5 seasons. I think the one thing they need to do next, besides replacing Gronowski, is they have to find those difference makers at receiver that can get separation on their own against the top cornerbacks, because that's truly where this offense struggles when they go up against the Oregons, the USCs, and the Indianas with the elite defensive players. Their skill players just struggle to find space to get open for the quarterback.
Get you guys out of here with a quick thought on Nebraska. And Tom, I'll have you go first this time. One feels like forever ago they were at Arrowhead with Mahomes, watching mini Mahomes be tossing it around, and now their season ends with all this thing swirling around Dylan Raiola.
Yeah, this is a very much a what could have been kind of season, because if you think going back to when Dylan Raiola broke his leg that cost him the rest of the season, they were ahead of USC in that game, and they were still very much in the playoff hunt. And clearly losing Raiola and having to turn to TJ Lateef kind of caused that to go the wrong direction. It cost them their chances to win the Big Ten and get to the playoffs. So now you're going into the offseason. There are the rumors about Dylan Raiola being on the market, maybe being available and entering the transfer portal. You do not know if he's going to be back. You do not know if TJ Lateef or somebody else is going to be the guy quarterback next season. And you think, it's a few months ago, we were talking about, the hopes that this team had. Matt Rule, maybe you thought he was leaving for Penn State. You were relieved he's coming back, but now you're here. You're 7-5 on the season. It's your 9th straight year with a losing record in the Big Ten. It just probably feels way too familiar for Nebraska fans everywhere.
Yeah, I would say so as well. You obviously, look at the end result and you see the winning record, but you always got to go dive into how did you play in conference play? And Nebraska's been a team that's been so up and down in that department. In the earlier part of the year, they looked great. I thought they would be one of the teams that would be in contention to win a Big Ten championship, but I thought that distraction crept in for this team when we saw the Penn State head coach James Franklin lose his job, because then everybody was talking Matt Rule losing, or Matt Rule potentially leaving Nebraska and going to Penn State, him being a Penn State guy. And imagine what that does to a locker room. For so much, we talk about guys staying focused, staying disciplined, and staying in the moment. It's hard to drown out the sounds of your head coach potentially leaving and going to another team within conference. So I think sometimes the season may get away from you with these type of distractions. I love for there to be a situation to where we no longer have these issues, to where teams can't come in and potentially poach coaches during the middle of the season, but that's a completely different other conversation. But Nebraska, they got a winning season. They just have to be much better next season if they're going to be in contention, and that will indeed start with Dylan Raiola if he's going to be there.
You're right, Beanie. Different conversation for yet another time. We don't have enough time, sadly. Beanie, Tom, guys, certainly appreciate it. Thanks for breaking down Iowa and Nebraska as we take a look at Dylan Raiola. He was there today at Lincoln to talk with his team, to be with his team. He was in a boot, wheeling that thing around. Big Ten ranks the past 2 years. He's up there, top 6 in all the major categories.